Hey everybody, I wanted to get back to video making today, but I was just busy enough this week I didn't really have a topic. And so I could sit here and just blather on and make some stuff, or I could do a simple book review. I did finish reading this book. I've been working on this book for a while. But this book is, I should tell you what book it is, right? Theodore Rex by Edmund Morris. I just finally, my bookmark is about to fall out. I put it right back in the front. Theodore Rex by Edmund Morris. And I just finished reading this book. I've always wanted to read more on Teddy Roosevelt because I feel like this is a president I don't know a tremendous amount about. I know a lot about the first presidents. I know those mid-19th century ones fairly well, and the World War II and post presidents, but this has kind of eluded me to this point in my study. So this felt like a really good book to pick up, and this was a great read. This has so much detail in it. This book only covers Theodore Roosevelt's presidency from the time William McKinley is assassinated until he leaves the office. That's all these 550 pages of readable material covers, is Theodore Roosevelt's time as president. And I'm going to tell you what, even after all my historical study, all my reading, all my documentary watching, all my class time, I learned so much from this book. There were so many little details about Theodore Roosevelt's life and his time as president and what actually took place that I got so much out of this book. I enjoyed this book. It actually pushed Theodore Roosevelt, as someone who I already thought very highly of, it actually sort of elevated him in my mind a little bit. I mean, he's like my third most admired president now, which doesn't seem like a very lofty position. He's three, but that's still pretty lofty in my mind. I really admire Roosevelt for being this very wealthy person who sort of brings himself to a commoner's level and understands commoner problems. And during his presidency, in a very progressive era where people are very irritated with the wealthy, serves as a nice bulwark between sort of a mass chaos and actually pushing forward with progressive reform that will sort of satisfy everybody. You know, he doesn't really let anybody get too much control, all the while being very in control himself. I mean, there's a reason they call it Theodore Rex. He's very king-like. He always seems to manipulate things back around to his way. Strikes against him don't last long. Eventually he bounces back and always makes things better. And Edmund Morris has such a good writing style. He's got this quality writing style. It's not quite a novel, but it reads very fluidly and fluently. Some historical writing is very matter of fact, very kind of dry and dull, and I'll be the first to concede that. But Morris avoids that. He's telling a story here. He's telling the story of this very interesting person, and I really like that. So I really liked this book, Theodore Rex. If you see it, I recommend picking it up. And you ever want to know more about Teddy Roosevelt? He's a very interesting person. Like I said, a very rich beginning and very humble he sort of forced humbleness upon himself, which is interesting. And that whole makes a very complicated and interesting person. I like this book so much that I've already picked up. I have not read either one of these yet, but I will read them both. The other two volumes. Edmund Morris wrote volumes Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, which of course is all about him before his presidency, and then Colonel Roosevelt, which is all about Roosevelt's post-presidency. And you might be saying, well, what more is there than him being president? Well, Roosevelt was also a writer and a scholar. He wrote 40 books in his lifetime. He actually wrote a couple of them while he was president. Several articles from magazines. He was actually, post-presidency, he actually was on, he was out, no, I can't remember, he was Outlook magazine. I can't remember, one of the famous magazines from that era. He was on their editorial staff and would contribute things. I did that beforehand too, so I have to admit I'm super intrigued after reading that book to read both of these. And I will get them read, and maybe when I get them read I will tell you what I thought of Rise of Theodore Roosevelt and Colonel Roosevelt. So there you go. I got plenty to do, right? I got plenty to read. So that's it, just a quick video, guys, to sort of get back in a rhythm. And hopefully next week I'll have a little more discipline, a little more historically relevant video. And I'm going to send off like I always do. Hope that brings you a little historical perspective.